Hello, my name is Talon, and I want to show you a project that I do from time to time that I call tube squeezer. Now, what a tube squeezer is basically something that squeezes the tube. Okay, so in this case, I've got toothpaste here, and my tube squeezer that I made out of chopsticks and some string basically fits on the end, and as you use the toothpaste or whatever's in your tube, you can slide this forward and it's going to compress everything that's in here and force it into the parts you're still going to be using. So it gives me a little bit more use out of my toothpaste than I might normally have. Right, so what we need to do this, we need some sticks. I'm going to use chopsticks in this case, some disposable ones. Some type of string. I have this wax coated string I use with leather projects. It doesn't have to be wax, that's just what I have on hand. Some type of cutting tool. Now if you've got a multi-tool, you probably have every cutting tool you're going to need for this. Okay, so that's why I put a little smiley face there. Nice to have items. Tape. So I'm going to use some duct tape that's only about 2-3 inches long and about 1 inch wide. A lighter just to kind of melt some things at the end just to make it look a little nicer. And a file or sandpaper. My file's on my multi-tool, so that's what I'm going to use. Let's begin. Okay, so I've got these disposable chopsticks, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to split them apart, and we'll notice that we have a wider end and a narrow end. So when I split these apart, I've still got wider ends and narrow ends. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to flip it around. Okay, this is my own personal preference. You don't really need to do that step, but I like to do it just so it makes things a little bit tighter in my opinion anyway. Okay, so got these together. I want to be able to hold them together while I'm manipulating the stuff with this. So this is where the tape comes in. So I'm just using some duct tape. I'm going to squeeze my chopsticks together, set them down on top of the duct tape, press them down, and just fold that over. This does not have to be neat. In fact, we're going to be cutting this off. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing to the other end. So now I'm going to pause the video while I cut the duct tape, because you probably don't need to see me cut duct tape, but I'm going to cut the duct tape and just cut it off here and there. Okay, so now the duct tape part is just trimmed off. I didn't need to do that, but since I'm going to be moving this in my hand a little bit, it just makes it a little bit less awkward. Okay, so now I need to take my string. I'm going to start using my string. I cut both pieces about 14 inches long. I don't normally just measure it, but I noticed that 10 inches is too short and 15 is way too long, so I'm going about 14 inches. Now, the technique I'm going to do is called whipping. Now, if you're not familiar with what whipping is, it's a very old school technique that they would use to keep the ends of rope from fraying. You didn't want to tie a knot in the end of your rope because it weakens the fibers in the rope. So they would do this technique that we're going to do on these chopsticks. If you needed to make your rope longer, you wouldn't tie knots to hook it together. They would splice the ropes, and at the end of the splices, they would whip those ends. And that would keep it from fraying and coming apart. So we're going to do the same kind of thing. What we'll do is just take and we're going to bend an end over like this to get a bite or a loop. Okay? And I'm going to have it about this long. The length is not that important other than the fact that at the end of doing the whip, I need to take part of this, be able to grip it and pull it. So I'm going to make it about this long. Okay? And then I lay the loop or the bite onto the chopsticks. Now, what I do is I go over the part that I'm going to pull at the end, which is between the two chopsticks right now. I'm going to go over that, but I'm going to do it kind of loosely on the very first wrap, because if I try to make it tight, it's going to actually pull it off. So I'm going to do it loose until it goes over that loop again and to the left, since I'm going to do this as I'm leading it all with the left hand. And then I'll take this and I just wrap it. Now I'm doing it tight, and I'm doing it up against The wraps I've already done. The amount is not so important, other than the fact that I like to do about 4 or 5. Okay, and then when I do my next one, I'm either going to come up from below and go through that loop, or I'm going to go down from above. I have found that it doesn't really make a difference. So I'm just going to go up from below. And this part I had at the beginning, I said I'm going to pull. Now I'm going to pull this. And I have that right there where it's all wrapped up on each other like this. Okay, so at this point, since I'm using wax thread, I don't need to do the next step. But if you're not using wax thread, then you should do this step. And the step is we're going to tie a square knot. Okay. If you're not familiar with what a square knot is, but you make paracord bracelets and stuff, it's the basic braid that a lot of people use in their paracord bracelets. Boy Scouts call it a square knot. It's the left over right, right over left, or opposite, right over left, left over right. So in this case, I'm going to go left over right, like this. Okay. And then I'm going to go through here, like that, and pull it tight. Now I did left over right, then I'm going to do right over left. The same type deal. And pull it tight. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to trim off the edges here. Use this little knife blade. I normally use scissors, but I don't have my scissors out. So I'm just going to use this little knife blade here. There we go. And I'm going to melt those down in a few minutes. Now I'm going to do the other side exactly the same. So I'm going to pause while I do it. But just so I'm doing my technique exactly the same, I'm just going to spin this around like that. So I'm going to work the left side. Now how long am I going to make this? Well, when I make these type things and I know the toothpaste has to go in it, I go about this long. I never really measure it, but I go about this long, and that gives me enough room for the toothpaste tube. If you make it too narrow, then your toothpaste tube is not going to actually go into it. Okay, so I'm going to pause it and get this part tied. Okay, so now I've got both of my whips made onto the sticks. And what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to use a lighter and melt these. And I don't need to, but I like to go all the way around because since it is wax, that's coated all over the thread, it gives it a little bit of a shine, and I like that look. So I'm going to go with that. If you want a burn wood look, you could just actually use the lighter and burn longer to do that. All right, so I got this part done. What I'm going to need to do now is I'm going to cut this stuff off on the outsides of it. And what I found works really good is just to take a knife and score it and then bend it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to score this like that. In here. And then when I bend it, it snaps off pretty good. I'm going to smooth it out, but it's not like a really terrible edge. And I'll do the same thing to the other side. I've done different ways of cutting this in the past, and today I actually started doing this way, and I like it better than all the other ways I've done. So, got that. There we go. Now I'm going to use my file that's on my multi-tool. Move this out of the way. And I generally hold the file still, and that's because my hand that it's holding the multi-tool is actually messed up. It's hard for people to tell. It looks normal, but it's messed up, and I got a couple fingers that don't bend because the knuckles had to get fused when they put them back on my hand. I'm lucky I can use my hand at all, but hey, that's the way it goes. Okay, so now this is all smooth, nice and neat, right like that. So what I want to do now is go ahead and get my toothpaste into it. Now, I don't need to use this one right now, but I'll just show you how I do that. So I need to have that gap open up, put toothpaste in. And I find it easiest if I just stick something in there like this to hold it open. And then I do this. I just stick it in, be careful of the knife blade. And I pull it out. Now, if I have trouble pulling this through, which I might, well, I didn't, but if I had trouble pulling it through, I could just use the pliers on my multi-tool, set it up like this, and then just pull it like that. And basically, I am done. So I only need to have one of these on my toothpaste, so I'm going to take that one off. But this is how I do this, this tube squeezer project, and I find it helps save on things that I have in squeeze tubes. So hopefully this video helps somebody out. This is one of the very first videos I've ever done, so I've probably made just a ton of mistakes in this on how I make a video. If you leave some constructive criticism, I would appreciate that. If you have some ideas, I'd appreciate hearing those also. My name is Talon. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.